the claims about Kamala Harris's rise to prominence. Tell me about what those claims are.
Yeah, so for years, Kamala Harris has sort of been shadowed by these claims that she hasn't earned the success that she's had in her career. This extraordinary rise from local to state to national politics to where she is now, standing right on the cusp of the nomination and facing Donald Trump. Conservative critics have long said that she owes much of her success to a former boyfriend, and that former boyfriend is Willie Brown. He's the high-profile, charismatic former mayor of San Francisco, who was a 60-year-old power broker when he began dating the 29-year-old up-and-coming lawyer Kamala Harris in the mid-1990s.
Okay, and so he was, and what? How much do we know about the relationship they had? He was a lot older than her at the time, and who was she at the time?
She was working in the district attorney's office of Alameda County, which is sort of her hometown. She was known already as a good lawyer. She was building up her own reputation. But Willie Brown had the reputation of being a king, or in this case, a queen maker. He's helped many people's careers. They began dating in the mid 1990s. There was a newspaper column from a very famous San Francisco Chronicle columnist who sort of announced this to the world. Kamala Harris accompanied Willie Brown to his 60th birthday party. And to give an illustration of sort of how high profile Willie Brown was, Clint Eastwood was also at this birthday party and apparently spilled champagne on the young Kamala Harris.
Wow. Okay. And so Willie Brown, he was a lot older than then. He's now 90. You spoke to him himself, right?
Yeah, I was with him this week in his favorite restaurant in the financial district of San Francisco. He is a really well-known figure out here in California, but this was the first time I'd met him, so I wasn't sure what to expect. Obviously, he's been all back in the headlines this week with the news that Harris is almost certainly going to be the nominee. It was a really interesting contrast. I'd like much of the rest of America, I'd watched President Biden's address this week from the Oval Office. Biden's had to leave the race due to his physical decline. He looked utterly exhausted on Thursday night. And yeah, here's Willie Brown at 90 years old. I walk into this restaurant. It's in the financial district. A lot of men in grey suits and tech workers in sort of that uniform they all wear of the gilet over the shirt. Here's Willie Brown standing out against them all in a sort of immaculately tailored tan suit. He's standing at the bar having banter with the staff. They still call him Mr. Mayor, a post he hasn't held since 2004. He takes me over to his favourite table in the corner, and he's still got that charisma that must have taken him right to the top of California politics.
Wow. And look, is there any truth in the rumors that he used his influence back in the day to place Harris on well-paying boards and to advance her career?
I mean, that's beyond debate. He did place her on well-paying boards. He introduced her to San Francisco's high society, as it were. Harris relied heavily in her early career on deep-pocketed donors who really boosted her early political career, and she was sort of introduced to them by Willie Brown. I don't think anyone would debate that he had some influence over her career, certainly the earlier career. I guess the debate is over. You've got conservative critics that commentator Megan Kelly said some sort of comment that provoked a bit of controversy this week. She did say that Kamala Harris slept away to the top, which infuriates Harris's supporters who say that's just a horrific sexist trope and completely untrue. So I think the extent of that influence Willie Brown had is what's up for debate here. And speaking to the people who know Kamala Harris quite well and have watched firsthand her rise through politics, they are adamant that Willie Brown may have had an influence on her early career, as he also did with Gavin Newsom, now Governor of California, and also a national political figure, and London Breed, the current mayor of San Francisco, as well as dozens, if not even more than that, other politicos in California.
And what do people there who knew Harris back then remember about her from back then? Do they remember her as being a sort of an impressive figure who was clearly destined to go places, who kind of caught everybody's eye?
Yeah, that's one of the questions I asked all the people I spoke to. They all laughed and said, we never quite imagined that the lady sitting across from me in a job interview would become president of the United States. But they all said, all of them said there was something about her. A few of them could remember distinctly the first time they ever clapped eyes on her. One of them, a friend, Amelia Ashley Ward, who's the publisher of San Francisco's oldest black newspaper. She can remember distinctly being in the Fairmont Hotel for a political event in San Francisco, and then seeing Kamala Harris with, blue jeans on, a white leather motorcycle jacket, her hair flowing, sort of just standing out hugely in this room full of men in grey suits. And one of the interesting things about this was Kamala Harris has really struggled with personal approval ratings during the time as vice president. Even before that, her presidential campaign imploded very early on. It was sort of disastrous. And yet, speaking to the people who have known Kamala Harris for years and years, they describe someone who is caring, who is funny, who calls them every year on a birthday, who calls from Washington during a bereavement. So I thought that was interesting, a sort of different depiction than what we're used to.
Absolutely. Look, there have been various leaks from her office in Washington over the years, suggesting it's a relatively toxic place for people to work, and there's been quite a high turnover. Was there any sense of that in her earlier life in San Francisco, that she could have been a little bit difficult to work for?
Yeah, I spoke to Brian Brokaw. He was her campaign manager for her runner, a California Attorney General in 2010, then a re-election bid in 2014, both of which were successful. He was laughing on the phone when I asked him if she was sort of demanding to work for. And he said, yes, she was. I won't lie to you, very demanding. But that's what you need in these high-pressure offices, he said. I asked him if he'd ever personally had the hairdryer treatment. And again, he laughed. He said, too many times to count. He said one time he was talking through the schedule for the next day, and he tried to crack a joke at the wrong time. And she just stopped him and said, don't ever do that again. And that really stuck out to him. He said he could remember exactly where he was, when it was, and he never made that mistake again. And he said sometimes if a brief wasn't up to snuff, or if there was a mistake in what Harris was being told, then she would let people know about it. But that is something that has come back. I'm not sure whether I'd say it's come back to haunt her, but in 2021, there was a lot of headlines that year about her inability to run an office.
Wow. Okay. And look, finally, I guess before I let you go, Keiran, do people there that you're speaking to then who knew her back in the day, do they think she can win against Donald Trump? What's their perspective there?
Yes, they do. I'm not sure. They were all Democrats that I spoke to. And one of the things I've heard a lot this week is that they haven't sensed this kind of enthusiasm and momentum since Barack Obama first ran, which is an extraordinary claim. We'll see if that bears out, or whether that's just everyone's in a high stage of excitement right now. But the people I spoke to said, yes, she certainly can win. Brian Brokaw, the former campaign manager, he pointed out that she's been in very tough races before. In 2010, she was an outsider to become California's Attorney General, and yet she won a very, very, very narrow race. He said she's been here before and she can do it. Willie Brown, he said he's fully confident that she can do it. Speaking to people on the street, I was in Oakland, Harris's old town. I was at a childhood home in Berkeley, which is quite funny. As I got out the car to take a picture, a teenage girl walked out the house next door and rolled her eyes as if to say, oh no, not another one. But everyone, certainly in California at least, is very confident that not only can she do it, but that she will do it.